Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to Zen with a Smile. This episode, this chapter, I will call Potpourri. Potpourri is a collection of flowers and herbs and compatible smells that add to something greater than the parts. So what it is for me is a collection of things that I wanted to touch on briefly. And most don't warrant, I don't have enough to say to fill a whole program. But I think they bear worth saying. They're worth saying. Many, many years ago, along with my other studies, I developed an interest in astrology. And I saw something there. I went deep. At that time, details didn't faze me, at least ones that intrigued me. Details, for just the point of details, were underwhelming for me. But when it came time, I could dive deeply. And whether or not, how much I retained is open for discussion. But astrology, and I studied at a very deep level. And I began to see trends and certain truths as I looked and watched the people around me. The deeper you went, and when you studied somebody's individual chart, the more that it would be so. But even on a cursory, superficial level, I'm a Pisces, you're an Aries, there seem to be at least elements that seem quite accurate. And this study, lifelong hobby, led directly to me being introduced to human design. I'd made a trip, one of many trips to Thailand, and I was in Koh Samui, a little island off the coast, and happened to meet Tom from The Hague. Nice guy, a couple of years older than me, was eating in a favorite vegetarian restaurant of mine. And he was pretty much a regular, and so was I, so we got to talking. And when I mentioned that I was living in Taiwan, he said, "Oh, you must know Deepak." And I said, "Well, there's 23 million people in Taiwan, and Deepak isn't amongst those that I know." He says, "Well, Deepak's a dear friend, great astrologer, was an astrologer for Osho for many years, living in Taiwan, and it might be interesting and fun for you to look him up." Well, I settled in, got back from my trip, and I thought about it. And I did a little exploration, Google, the magic of Google, and found Deepak, the astrologer, in Taiwan. Well, I contacted him. Skype, I believe. Anyway, we spoke, and it turns out that he's a fellow American. He's from Louisiana. He's a doctor of psychology, in addition to his understanding his astrologer career. So I mentioned to him that I'd like to meet with him and have a session, see what he could see. And as we talked, I mentioned to him that I was in Geelong, a city, a port city, northeastern. Actually, it's the top of the most northernmost city in Taiwan. And he said, there was a pause. He says, "Dennis, I'm in Hualien too. Not Hualien, sorry. I'm in Geelong too." Mm-hmm. So he was 20 minutes away, as it turned out. Well, within the hour, I was sitting with him, and quite intrigued. Nothing new. I'd studied this for years. I had astrologers look at my chart done before, and had readings before, but I always was interested. And I was more interested in warnings. Was there anything that I should be aware of, cautious? Much more interested in this than measurements of success. And as we spoke, he mentioned to me human design. And he showed me my human design chart. First time I'd ever seen this. And those of you that are familiar with human design, if not, take a look. It's really interesting. And he told me the story of meeting Ra. Ra was the one that channeled, more or less, channeled this information. That's kind of a combination of the I Ching, tree of Kabbalah from the Jewish tradition, Western astrology, kind of a marriage of the three of them, used elements of each. And he told me the story of meeting Ra in Ibiza, an island off the coast of Spain. And he had opportunity to study personally with Ra, I guess about 14 years ago, 15, 16. I have to ask Deepak. Anyway, I got real interested, just that the whole concept piqued my interest. So I started to do research and found a lot there. So along your path, if you're on the journey, on the trail, if you're into spiritual inquiry and you need a break, you want to entertain your mind with some other things, human design, astrology, take a look. I think it's well worth a look. And that leads me to talking about sincerity. Sincerity is a stepping stone. You have to be sincere about your desire. For your spiritual inquiry, you have to treat people with sincerity. I read once that the smile that reaches the eyes. Yeah, the eyes have it for me. The eyes are the secret. The smile that reaches the eyes. That's a good gauge of sincerity. I'm quite a student of eyes. Windows to the soul, after all. Looking for glimpses. I always knew that the mouth can lie, but the eyes seldom do. The truth lies in those orbs of which we use to look out upon the world. Look in. Look in. Look inward. This same sincerity, this training to be sincere, can lead you to a path of what I call life-serving life. I feel an obligation, and I share this obligation with you, to do my part, no matter how limited or how small, to make the world a better place. Just by being in it, putting effort to controlling what's in your realm of control. And this is basically ourselves. And most of us struggle with controlling ourselves, much less others out there. So life has a life-serving life, means that we have a responsibility to do what we can to make life for all of us a little better. I'm glancing down because I have a list. Maybe I should just pick up my list, It'll make it a lot easier. This is Potpourri, and it's to help me to remember. This might be my only opportunity. Some of this is rehash, but this might be some of my only opportunity to put some things that I woke up in the middle of the night and wrote in my iPad. Put some things to share. I celebrate ordinariness. I encourage us to embrace it. Embrace ordinariness. Because it's truly in the ordinary that we learn about the extraordinary. Extraordinary, extraordinary events. The whole process of non-abiding to abiding, awakening, is a fantastic, extraordinary experience. But it has to be tempered, it has to be shadowed, it has to be understood in the context that it's not so extraordinary at all. It's the natural condition of us all. When you think about it, the natural source, natural, I lost that word. Who and what we are. So part of the all-embracing, part of the love. It's extraordinary when you consider that it's the ordinary condition of us all. What if we all woke up? What if we all woke up at the same time, simultaneously? What would that be like? Extraordinary or just ordinary? So again, embrace the ordinary. Chop wood, carry water. Yeah. Sweep the floor. Mindfulness. These are all part of what leads to this ordinary realization of true nature. One point here. Potpourri, after all, it's a collection thrown in a container, blended skillfully, that the whole will be greater than the sum of the parts. The exquisite smells that will stay with you, that will brighten up your wardrobe, brighten up your room. Talking about most of us, if I ask you, who are you? You have some kind of stock answer. I'm an American living in Taiwan. Retired university professor. I'm an engineer. And again, this is what you do. This is your doings. What about your beings? So what I'm suggesting is these things that who we think we are, discard them, take a look, examine them, reflect on them, till you know who you aren't. You aren't any of the things I just described. You aren't what you do. You aren't a father. This is what you do, but you're not a man. What are you? What is your being? So learn who you're not. And then begin the task of learning who you are. Reincarnation is something, again, not unlike astrology or human design. It's always interested in reincarnation, the mechanics of it. I wanted to know specifics and mechanics, and I wanted to know some of my past lives. And in my 2-day awakening experience, which I described as tubing, going down a slow river in a tube, drinking green tea, and looking to both sides, and was led to understand that all those lives were mine. Almost everything, and this went on for an immeasurable amount of time. It's innumerable numbers bigger than I'm able to comfortably deal with of incarnations. But what I learned from this experience, my learning about reincarnation was much different than what motivated me for so many years to learn about it. I was taking a personal interest in my own path, my own evolution. And I came to understand that it mattered not. Each of those lives was worth a cursory glance, without judgment, certainly free of personal information, facts, free of facts. Because could you imagine how overwhelming all your names, your spouses, your children, your jobs, just keeping track of it. What I've done in 70 years is a handful, much less tens and thousands of lifetimes. And if you add up the sorrows and the sufferings, it would probably be overwhelming to grasp them at the same time. All the sorrows, all the suffering from your many, many, many lifetimes. So this is why we forget. We're spared the details. We're spared. We're able to go at it more or less with a clean slate. We're not burdened with the past. And on the other side, we've talked about the joys, and there's a lot of joy in there too, in all those lifetimes. But maybe we tend to get bogged down in the suffering and the sorrows. Maybe they play bigger in our psyche. So reincarnation, as I understand now, it happens. The mechanics of it don't interest me in the least. When and if I need to know, I will know the mechanics, what really happens. But one analogy just sat with me and stayed with me, and I like that, is as the ocean, the wholeness of the ocean. The ocean as the source of all of our souls. We're all together as one in the ocean. And then something, the shore comes, or a ship, or a boat, or a rock, or a log, and the water bangs up, hits up against this breakwater, hits up against this, and flies up in the air, and you can see individual drops go back down into the water. And this is more or less a useful, my useful vision. It serves my purposes, that I'm a drop. That drop is a lifetime. And I will go back to my source. So the drop does not remember its life as a drop when it goes back in the ocean. It's not separate. It appeared to be separate for a brief moment, but it's part of the ocean, isn't it? It's still, even in the drop, it's still part of the ocean. So this is my take on reincarnation. And it takes away all that clinging to details. Who was I? What was I? It didn't matter much. It's just a drop of water. Until I came back into the rest of the sea. Ocean of souls. All sharing the same condition, sharing the same awareness. And being a source, from the ocean comes life. From the ocean comes the next drop, comes your next lifetime. So the ocean is your place. After the trauma of living your perceived individual existence, you come back to the mother for nurturing, sustenance, and acceptance. I smile because we talk about, I was just reading my list, it says moment of truth. And I think we all have many, many moments in our life when we're able to, if we thought about it, we're able to get a glimpse of what we are, what we share. So, a moment to moment leads to some truths. I'm reading my list again. I used to love to travel. I traveled a lot. And in the last few years, 10, 15 years, I've only been 1 or 2 places in that period of time. And I always thought the idea of a pilgrimage, go on a pilgrimage, go to India, go to the 4 important places for Buddha, where he was born, where he was enlightened, where he shared the Dharma, and then when he made his transition, when he passed on. The 4 places. This is a worthy pilgrimage. And I had some expectations of visiting these holy places, that something would be there for me, some experience, some part of the awakening, some kind of esoteric teachings that I couldn't access anywhere else. Then it dawned on me, there's nowhere to go. We're here now. All the answers, everything we need is right with us. I remember thinking, wherever we go, there you are. So we bring our baggage too. But for me, the peace of knowing that there was really nowhere to go helped me deal with my wanderlust. I'm very content here in Hualien, Taiwan. It's fun to look at this list because I wrote something that was so true for so much of my life that I always felt ill-equipped for the world in which I found myself. I wondered for so long if something was lacking in me. It was my lack of something that didn't propel me. It didn't motivate me like many people around me. I had no plan about a career. My working history was really haphazard. And it did turn out, it did lead me eventually to teaching at university level, a lecture at universities. And what was interesting is this hodgepodge of efforts and hodgepodge of experience. I was a jack of all trades, master of none, essentially. So what else there is to do? Become a teacher, right? Yeah. I followed in the path of many predecessors. But the interesting thing about teaching is that everything that you bring to the table, everything that you learn in the process of surviving is useful, can be a tool in your teaching, can help you understand the condition that others find themselves. So I always said I was ill-equipped for the world in which I found myself. But it turned out for the best. If I would have been focused on attaining one kind of career, all the experiences that I accumulated, I would have missed them. And they wouldn't have been part of what I could offer. So, a teacher as a jack of all trades. Yes, I agree with that. Get the education, get the credentials, but don't negate, don't neglect all the experience along the way. And I think I'll wrap it up. I'm at the end of the list. But the end of the list, my last thing on my list said a moment of spiritual clarity. And that makes me smile because clarity, silence the mind, clarity, were twin beacons in my 30 or 40 or 50 years of rigorous Zen inquiry. Searching for clarity, the image of a still pond. So stillness and clarity went hand in hand. Still mind, clear vision. Be a reflection. Be like a mirror. Reflect what's looking in the mirror. Reflect it back out of the mirror. My natural condition was a busy mind, noisy, and anything other than clear. I was never clear. Confusion was a big part of the condition of my life. Noisy mind, confusion. My meditation practice ultimately had to settle on attempting to tame these tendencies. So I was pretty much used to being in a fog much of the time. And my mind was busy criticizing me, telling me that you have to quiet, you have to get still, so the pond will be clear. Any kind of disturbance will stir up the mud from the bottom of the pond. Will stir up, and it's not clarity. But ultimately, for me, what I came to understand is a moment of clarity should be cherished. A moment of stillness should be cherished. Because these were not conditions that I could keep, that I could maintain, other than a moment. And that's enough for me, more than enough.